Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you to think better about prepping for the worst. Yeah, I know if you're a regular to this channel, you know that comes across as a bit odd since we are, of course, incurable optimists when it comes to the rise of a new conservative age. But I've always said, while I have no doubt of ultimate victory all around the world, not just here, the question is always how much damage is the permanent political class going to inflict on us? In the meantime, we need to prep for the worst and plan for the best. And that's where my wonderful guest today comes in. Ted Johnson is the CEO of Ready Project, which specializes in survival and emergency food prep and storage. And he's going to give us his assessment on the current economic situation and how you and I can best prepare for it. So, Ted, I am ready in just a few minutes with you to become a survival prepping expert. Do you think you can do that?
Let's do it. I think I can, no doubt.
That's awesome. It's great to have you with us, man. I've wanted to talk to you for a while.
I appreciate that, Dr. Steve. Our business is funny. I was going to say we're excited about what's going on, but that's kind of an oxymoron, right?
It is. I know exactly what you mean, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but in this certain time and in this day and age, I'm going to tell you, we've been doing this for a long time. Let me give you a brief history on myself and my passion for this. Yeah, my passion for this space. I always say, I got a lot of good friends, and I always say, hey, I'm probably a pretty fun guy to hang around with. But you got to be really careful when you hang out with me because I'm also kind of a disaster magnet. So it goes back to 1991, and I was in the Big Bear earthquake in Southern California. Fast forward that same year, I was on the North Shore of Oahu when Hurricane Iniki hit. A couple years later, I decided I was going to go visit my girlfriend back down in Southern California, and the Northridge earthquake hit. Then I was doing some business, and I was up in the 60th story of the Empire State Building back in 2011 when the earthquake hit in Virginia. I mean, shook the whole building, and you don't want to be 60 stories up when that happens. That was scary. And moved my family to Florida in 2016. Just in time for 2017, Hurricane Irma hit, and just in time for 2018 when a Category 5 Hurricane Michael hit. So, always wanting to live the American dream, starting my own business when I was 14 or 15 years old, mowing yards. My dad always told me, hey, Ted, listen, if you want to start your own business, you got to fill a need. And as I've gone through these certain situations, there was really one consistency with them all. And that was emotion really dictates motion. And in these situations, motion drives people to the grocery stores and the shelves absolutely empty out. So I said to myself, listen, I've seen this firsthand. And there, in my opinion, and I am in the preparedness space, there is no better thing that you can do for you or your family than proactively prepare. And so that's when I decided, hey, listen, I'm going to get into the long-term food storage business. I'm going to make sure my family's prepared, my parents are prepared, my friends are prepared, and that's really how it all started. It was kind of a combination of situations that weren't the best, chasing the American dream and being a small business owner, and finding that need and fulfilling it, and that's what we do at the Ready Project.
I love it. It's such a patriot story. It's so cool. Am I right? That in many respects, we're more or less like the first generation that doesn't stock food, generally speaking, right? So in other words, if we look at our parents and our grandparents, World War II generation, great-grandparents, World War I generation, they all prepped in some way, shape, or form. That's just what you did. You had cash savings and you had commodity savings, right? Is that true? And if so, what happened to us? Why do we suddenly become so complacent when it comes to food access?
Well, that is true. And I look back on my grandparents. They lived in Detroit, and my grandmother's garden was a spectacle. It was so beautiful. I had bean eating contests with my cousins all the time.
That's cool.
That being said, they did prepare. To your point, they did prepare. I don't know if they really understood they were preparing, though, because it was just a part of life. So if you go back to an American family of 4 or 5, let's just say in the 1870s to 1910, let's just say. This was a family that, for the most part, woke up. Kids went milk the cows. Mom went and got the eggs. Father took the kids out into the fields.
Yep.
They were plowing, they were planting seeds, plowing crops, doing things of this nature. Then you had the Industrial Revolution come along, when all of a sudden, this same family could move to a more urban area, work in a warehouse, and get money. And now buy what they needed to with the money that they had instead of raising it themselves. And so now, yes, you're right. For instance, I'm 53 years old. My grandparents were part of truly the last generation of people that really were self-sufficiently prepared. And not to get ahead of myself, but I have a lot of people now, and we'll get to this in a little while, talking to me about, well, I have a garden or I can go hunt. Those are very, in this day and age, very uncalculated ways to prepare. But yes, you are correct that we are kind of in the middle, where we have a foot in the past, and now we have a foot with what's going on right now. And right now is completely and utterly different than any time we've ever seen before. And the unrest is definitely certain. And it is a different type of preparedness that needs to take place now.
Yeah. Oh, that's, I love how you put that. One of the things just at a whole global level, which is so interesting that we've been seeing of late, is how the sanctions against Russia and the massive energy and food crisis that followed, particularly what's happening in Europe, how it seemed to demonstrate that when all is said and done, commodities rule the world, right? You can have all the cash you want, but you can't eat or heat your home with dollar bills. Are you seeing that today? Or do you agree that commodities are becoming more and more valuable than cash?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I'll give you just an analogy off the top of my head. Let's say Bill Gates, let's say you went out and you had a 1 or 2 year food supply for your family, and you knew that everything was going to be okay from a food standpoint. In survival, you have air. The pillars of survival are air, water, food, and shelter. So obviously we're here talking about food. Okay.
Right.
So you have this great food supply. You know that if, the crap hits the fan, so to speak, that you're going to be okay. So, and let's put you paid a nominal figure for this food supply. Now, let's say your next door neighbor is Bill Gates and he has no food supply. Fast forward down the road to any one of the multitude of catastrophic situations that could take place at any given day. But let's, knock on wood, of course, let's say that one of them does take place. You have your food supply in place. In this hypothetical situation, Bill Gates doesn't. Right. Bill Gates comes over and says, "Hey, Dr. Steve, I need some food. I'll give you $2 million for your food supply." Now, you don't know, the shelves are empty. Distribution is completely disrupted. It's off the rails. You truly don't know where your next meal is going to come from. So he offers you a couple $1 million for your food storage. You say yes, or do you say no?
No.
Okay, now
Absolutely
he says,
not. Yeah, the cash can't give me anything.
Steve, I got to eat. I'll give you $100 million.
Yeah. Doesn't matter, does it? Yeah.
$1 billion. So to answer your question with that hypothetical story, commodities in emergency, catastrophic, disaster, pandemic-related situations absolutely trump cash or anything else for that matter.
Right. Wow. Yeah, and we're seeing it just play out right in front of our very eyes. It's so fascinating. In your opinion, I mean, you mentioned the distribution system. How fragile do you assess the distribution system to be here in the United States, and how does that fragility affect my how does it affect me? How does it affect my personal ability to purchase food from my family and the like?
Yeah, let's look at that. First off, I love the United States of America, and I am a American through and through. That being said, though, I think that we have a real false sense of security has been created over these last 20, 30, 40 years, that there will be no disruptions. Now, we're starting to see little kinks in the armor here and there, especially since the pandemic. But let me say something that a lot would find very controversial. Although not as effective, I believe our distribution system, probably back in the 1870s and early 1900s, was actually more reliable than our distribution system is here today. Because if you think about it, like the old Wells Fargo mail truck cruising through the United States, dropping off mail, what was the engine driving that? It was a horse and a buggy. Right. And you know what you needed for that horse? You needed grass, and there was a lot of it, and you needed water, and there was a lot of that too. Now, if you look today, everything that you look around at right now, Dr. Steve, I mean, look at your microphone, look at the jacket that you have on, look at the items, everything that you have was delivered to the person who sold that to you on a diesel truck. Diesel trucks, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know, run on diesel fuel. So if those fuel prices continue to escalate, like if you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner and you can buy a product for $2 and sell it for $5, you're probably going to have a very successful business. Right. If you're buying a product for $5 and you're selling it for $2, you're going to file bankruptcy. Okay. The diesel companies that are out there control all of the distribution. And so I feel like, and it's been seen, especially up in Canada a couple months ago when diesel trucks stopped running, the reality of the situation here is that our whole entire distribution system is set around these trucks. And God bless our truck drivers and what they do to get us the goods that we need. But remember, look back to your point about food. Your local grocery store has anywhere between 3 to 6 days worth of food on hand. They are constantly rotating that. Drive to the back of your grocery store the next time you're there. You're going to see a bunch of loading bays. Those loading bays are where the diesel trucks back up in and unload everything from your chicken to your eggs to your Coca-Cola to everything it is that you consume. And the second those trucks stop running for any given reason, there's going to be real problems in the United States.
Right. Wow. Incredibly stark vision from the abundance that we just assume is so natural, like the air we breathe. Give me some prepper basics here. All right. So I've got a family of 6 altogether. And I've done some prepping, but I'm bad at it. I think always in terms of one. I don't know what it is with me, but I'm always thinking in terms of just one person. So I've got a family of 6. How much emergency food supply should I have on hand?
So, back to what I mentioned earlier, air, water, food, shelter, the things that you really need to have in place for your family, obviously, hopefully you have shelter, but you can't, if the air goes away, we've got about 30 seconds to a minute and a half or 2 minutes to realize that. So there's nothing we can really do to control that. But food, water, medical supplies. Some things that I want to briefly talk about are things that you don't think about. Making sure that you have extra toothbrushes, contact lenses, glasses, reading glasses, medications, things of that nature. Not to get ahead of myself, but there's many type 2 diabetics out in the United States of America right now. And one of the most popular medications that they can take is metformin. Well, a big, huge majority of metformin comes from China. So, you've got to be thinking ahead on a lot of different things. So food, water, medical, and medical, including dental and eyes, is something that you really want to focus on. But to your question on food, you got a lot of varying statistics. I think FEMA says that you should have 2 to 3 weeks worth of food storage in your home at any given time per person. You have a lot of ecclesiastical leaders that push more of 6 months, a year, year and a half. I personally believe, and what I do with my family is we have a year's worth of food storage for every one of my family members. I have 3 young boys, a 17-year-old, a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and my wife. So there's 5 of us. and we have a year's worth of food storage just to make sure that because there's such small instances. I don't mean small from a disaster standpoint, but let's look at a hurricane. A hurricane moves into your area and it moves out. A tornado comes and does really, really bad damage, and then it moves out. So these are, short time events where you might be displaced food wise for 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on the situation. But then you have to sit back and say to yourself, okay, listen, where was this world in 2000? Where was it in 2010? And where is it now? And you've got to assess your own personal thoughts on what you feel like you should do. I personally believe that I know I'm prepared for a 2 or 3 week situation. I know that I'm prepared for a couple months situation. But ultimately for me, I feel like, Americans are resilient. Really, really bad things can happen in this world today. But I do feel like even in really dire and horrific situations, that you give America a year and a half, 2 years to rebound, and America's going to rebound. And you know what? I want to make sure that my 3 children, myself and my wife, are there for the rebound. So that's why I talk about a year.
Awesome. So a year's supply. That's pretty much
that's what I feel.
That's the benchmark. Yeah. It makes sense. I like the logic that you're using, and I'm assuming you could build up to that. Start off with 3 months, maybe then 6 months or what have you.
Yeah,
and try to get.
I think that's what really people have to understand, that building a long-term food storage. Yeah, it's nice. You could take care of it today and have a year's worth of food storage in your house. That might make sense economically for you and your family, and it might not. The good news is that you can build that food supply up over time and get what you feel like you need in place for you and your family. Provide for your family and take on that responsibility. And you can do it over a period of time and make the economics of it work out a little bit better for whatever kind of budget that you're on.
There you go. Combine the commodities and cash there.
That's right.
That's awesome.
That's right.
That's great. Well, and gang, what's so cool here is that if you click on the link below, Ted's giving all of us a super awesome discount to get started in building up our food supply. So this is what makes what he's doing so wonderful. Let me ask you, on behalf of just the skeptics out there, you mentioned your grandmother's garden and having the bean eating contest and the like. Why can't I just go ahead and garden or hunt my own food instead of having to go through putting together this whole emergency food supply?
Right. I'm glad you asked that. I get a lot of people. Everyone, it's just common sense in today's day and age to have some kind of food storage in place. And you either have food storage in place or you have a philosophy on how you're going to get food if you ever needed it and put it into place. So, a lot of people do feel like, hey, I've got a huge garden. And I say, hey, you grow it bigger, but always realize that a garden, and I'm going to talk to you about some kind of the dark side of starvation and food storage here in a minute, but realize that with that garden is not just visible to you.
Right.
It's visible to me. It's visible to other people. I also have people, I'm a real outdoorsman. And unfortunately, I haven't been hunting for the last couple of years, but I really, really enjoy going out and hunting. And I really, really enjoy bringing home that meat. And we prepare it up and have a good time eating it. That all being said, the government right now has a regulation in place for hunters. So, you go and you put in for your tag. Now, I don't know if you hunt, but I can only tell you this. When I'm out hunting, even now, I sometimes see more hunters than I do maybe the deer or the elk or the antelope I'm after.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, I haven't hunted the last couple of years, not because of a lack of passion for hunting. It's because I have not drawn out to hunt. So once again, hunting is a very regulated process in the United States of America. But even all of you who are out there right now that say, well, listen, I live in Eastern Pennsylvania, or I live here and there's whitetail abundance, or whatever the game is in your area. The reality of the situation is, if you have 100 hunters out hunting today legally, But if everyone that put in was able to hunt, you'd have about 400 or 500 hunters
Easily.
Now, so you 5x'd it. Now imagine, and only hunters truly understand this, people that see other men and women out in the woods hunting. Now imagine taking that 5x and 50 to 100xing that. The wildlife, the reason why the government really, and there's a lot of thoughts and theories on this, but there's the reason why the government ultimately, the reason they give in regulating the amount of hunters is conservation. It's keeping the animals in abundance. I'm just telling you, I cannot imagine a situation where the people that are truly starving for food and decide to provide for their family via hunting, I know those numbers are going to be absolutely enormous. And I know the chances for even the best hunters, the chances of going out and bagging some game will get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer the longer a catastrophic situation takes place.
It's so interesting you say that, and our listeners should know, before we started recording, I told Ted, dude, you're like the guy I wish I was. I mean, I just love. This is exactly what I mean. I mean, survivalists and preppers, they see the whole field in a way that us neophytes have no clue of, and that info itself is gold. What are some concerns you have currently, and why is now the time to get ready to be prepared? I mean, I just did a video this morning. The FBI is already, I mean, a lot of people think it's just a bunch of scaremongering, but they're already warning about an impending civil war, for heaven's sakes, after the raid and so forth. I mean, things are definitely I mean, it's like, I told that to my wife and she says to me, so they're trying to start World War III with Russia and China, and now we're going to have a civil war at home. It's like things seems to be as crazy as they can be. What are you concerned about, and why is the time now to get prepared?
So I'm always concerned about Mother Nature. You never can count. That's completely unpredictable what's going to happen. Those type of situations, though, are so different than political situations. We now live, in an absolute worldwide economy. So I'll go straight to a real doomsday thought. Let's say tonight, Steve, you go to bed in your home, I go to bed in my home, and we wake up in the morning to some news that, for instance, Iran got their hands on a nuclear weapon and fulfilled their promise to send that weapon directly into Israel. So let's say that takes place. Now, God bless those souls, but you wake up, I wake up, we're the same as we are right now, healthy. We're going to eat some breakfast or do whatever we do. There's no fallout. None of our, immediate family members, if you are injured. But because of the economics of this world and the absolute binding tie-in, you're going to have the markets. I mean, listen, if Elon Musk can increase a stock price 30, 50% up or 30, 50% down with a single tweet, what is an actual real? We've been hearing about nuclear bombs, Steve, our whole life. What if there's an actual nuclear event that doesn't affect the physicality of America? But because of our worldwide economy, that market's going to plunge. It's like the Elon Musk thing. It's based off of so much emotion now, not just profit losses, things. It's so emotional that as that market plunges and fuel prices start to escalate and possibly go through the roof, it goes back to what we talked about a couple minutes ago. The distribution system could just come to an absolute screeching halt. Now, this is my number 2 fear, because nothing actually, I should say my number 3 fear, because nothing has happened on American soil, but we will feel the effects of that in our stomachs. I'm just telling you, because distribution will absolutely come to a halt as our economy literally crashes for completely other reasons than what we're seeing taking place right now. My number two concern is the Taiwan situation with China. We all know that if something would happen in that situation, we've got to go in and have Taiwan's back. Now, what a lot of people tell me, when I'm speaking on stages or being interviewed, I have a philosophy about China. This is my own personal philosophy. I believe that the value of human life for the nation of China is not the same as the value of human life here in the United States of America. And that gives China a distinct advantage over America in an economic situation. Because I have people tell me all the time, well, if China stops shipping their goods here, it's going to crash. It would obviously really hurt us economically, but it's going to crash their economy. So they would never do that. My thought on that is really, they've got billions of citizens. If we crash their economy, what's going to happen? People are going to starve. People are going to die. But does that mean as much to them as it does to the American citizens and our government here in the United States of America? I don't believe it does. So I believe that China has a distinct, not militarily, or I'm not going to even get into any of that. I'm just talking about from a philosophical standpoint regarding the value of a human life. I believe that a communist regimen has not the same value, does not place the same value as we do. And so therefore I'm very concerned about that. And then last but not least is a random occurrence, an EMP, a Yellowstone crater situation, something here on American soil. If you look at the statistics, let's just say of an EMP, that's a nuclear event. If an EMP took place in the middle of the United States of America, depending on where, obviously, the loss of life, one life obviously is catastrophic, but the loss of lives would not be what you might think it is in a true hit nuclear event. But the damage that EMP would do to our distribution system, because it would basically shut everything down.
The fallout is the key. Yeah.
They feel like that you probably would lose, depending on the locale, 100 to maybe 400,000 lives in the EMP event. But you could have millions upon millions of America dying of starvation in the next 60 to 90 days after that event. And that is why our enemies know that EMPs are so important. And if they can disrupt the distribution system in any which way or form, that's what's going to get us.
Right. Wow. There you go, Ted. Yeah, lots and lots to be concerned about, no question, and to prep for. So if we to click on the link below, which I'm got to do right now after you're talking about this, we click on the link below to go to your site. Walk us through it. What do you recommend that we do right now? What action should we take to get started on the road of some responsible prepping?
I think that, as a American family, first and foremost, you look at economics. Second, you look at how many people you have in your family. And third, you say to yourself, okay, how long do I want to be prepared for? We have people buy 5 years worth of food storage. We have people buy 1 month worth of food storage. So I would always say, when you go to our site, we are offering a really great discount, but purchase and get prepared to the point that you're comfortable. You can build this up over time. So if you now, once again, not to be, I'm an optimistic guy, believe it or not to be a doomsdayer, right? Building up over time is a good thing economically. If something would happen tomorrow, it's a disaster. So just keep that in check. But you've got to say to yourself, you got to say to yourself, okay, I want 6 months of food, and I have a family of 4. So that would basically be 24 months worth of food that you'd be buying for you and your family, and that you'd be taken care of for 6 months. Or you jump straight to the year, or you start at 3 months. So we have a number of different options there that you can take a look at. And I'd say, once again, look at economics, look at how many people are in your family, and look to what is your comfort level on preparedness. Like I said, I'm in the business. I'm prepared for a year. We have people on the daily buying 2, 3, 4, 5 years worth of food storage. So it's just your own personal philosophy. and what you feel. Now, always remember something too. We're talking about food, and our food, if you said to me, what's the greatest thing about your food? It's delicious. I love food. Okay. Our food is delicious. It's incredibly well balanced. So it's got carbohydrates. It's got great protein. More importantly, the food storage industry went through a really interesting transition where, we started in 2006, and I'm guessing a little bit, but let's just call it 2014, 2015. People started selling you meals. So, hey, Steve, here's our 1 month food kit. It comes with 90 meals. 90 meals is 3 meals a day. And that sounds great until you really look at the caloric value of those meals. Those meals might have 200 calories a piece. That means you're taking in 600 calories a day, which, you're going to starve off starvation. But trust me, it's coming. All of our packages have 2,100 calories per day. They're balanced, like I said, with protein. They're balanced with carbohydrates, so that you're going to have the energy that you need and maintain the muscle strength that you need to get through a catastrophic or survival disaster situation.
Right.
So
assess your budget, and then go and purchase accordingly, in accordance with the needs of the family and how many people you have, and basically how much you can afford now, and then stack up as you go along.
Yeah, don't procrastinate though. I mean, the thing is get started. Whatever that means to you. Maybe you start and finish in the same with 2 clicks of a mouse. Maybe you start and finish, but get started no matter what. Because I'm just telling you, on the wrong day and at the wrong time in the wrong situation, you don't want to be without food.
That's for sure. My oh my. Gang, this is just an amazing resource for all of us, and I'm so glad to be able to share it with you. I'm sure most of us have cash on hand. I hope you have some savings in place, but we cannot think of savings simply as cash. We have to think in terms of commodities, most especially food, and that's where TED and Ready Project come in. And the beauty of what TED is doing here, as far as I'm concerned, is they take the worry and the complication completely away, and they provide everything needed for a truly sustainable emergency food supply. So make sure to click on that link below right now. Make today the day you take care of this, bite the bullet as it were, and enjoy Ted's very, very generous discount. And Ted, what can I say, man? Like I said, I want to be you. Thanks so much, man, for being with us and helping us all out. Your fellow patriots stay healthy and strong during these crazy times. Thanks, man. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. It's been a real pleasure to spend some time with you today.
Absolutely.